My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be John and the Universan Video 15, A Visit to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Part 2. So here's my book, John and the Universan. Nothing is known. Two figures inside a beat-up old spaceship. On the way to visit Stonehenge, John wonders whether his English ancestors might have been involved in the building of that mysterious megalith. Suddenly, he finds himself being held prisoner in a spaceship by an alien who tells John that despite government secrecy on his home planet, he's heard rumors that over many centuries, his own ancestors have taken part in a series of major building projects here on Earth. Together, John and the alien embark on a tour of ancient sites, including Stonehenge, in search of their common ancestral roots. So did John's human ancestors and the aliens' interplanetary ancestors build these megaliths together. That's what they're trying to find out. I taught literature for 32 years before I became a writer. When I became a writer, I started to take university courses on the art of short story writing. Shortly after I began, I was asked a question about my writing which I'd never heard of in all the years I had taught literature. After I read the second section of The Visit of John and the Universan to the Great Pyramid of Giza, I will tell you what that question was. First of all, let's go to page 54 and continue with the tour of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So the guide is talking. They're riding along on camels, John, the Universan, all the other tourists, and the guide is talking. "You have made a wonderful choice in coming to Egypt, ladies and gentlemen," says our camel riding guide, "as the best way to learn about the fascinating culture of ancient Egypt firsthand is by viewing its most famous structures, as the ancient Egyptians did, from the back of a camel. Your camel, ladies and gentlemen, is a professional, registered, official, four-footed guide. Together, your camel and I will present you with insights into the significance of one of the world's most famous monuments, rivaled only in fame perhaps by Stonehenge, though when compared to the Great Pyramid at Giza, which you see before you now, Stonehenge is as old, with reference to antiquity, but definitely not as high." So, comparing megaliths. As they're riding along on the camels, the Universan speaks to John. "You know, I enjoy fishing around in your vocabulary, John," says the Universan. "Your language, you call it English, is quite the thing. The tap is running, the boy is running, also running is the nose. Then there's punning, sunning, even dunning, not used too often though. Then for punning, there's also pruning. This is all new to me, you see. Why say over and above? Just what does each of these two words mean? Pillar and post are another two about which I would like to take you to task. How many words, signs, glyphs do you think in our language? Take a guess. Luckily, I have acquired your language and the words that are in your mind." The guide continues on as they're riding along on camels. "Ancient Egypt lies before you," says our guide. "These camels' ancestors worked on this site. Camels, even more so than elephants, are gifted with an acute ancestral memory. Try to think with your camel's brain and look through his eyes." So does the camel know more about the pyramids than the humans? Does he have an ancestral memory that has come down through all these generations of camels who have lived on this site? John thinks to himself, "I hope the dismount goes more smoothly than the mounting. It was awkward when the Universan's camel refused to kneel." So the universe is having trouble existing in a human body, which isn't the kind of body or whatever he does have back home. "I wonder if you were to visit us, John, would it work the other way? Would you look like me when I look like myself? Read the equivalent of my mind, would you think, John? what I wouldn't block off, of course, so you wouldn't have unrestricted access to all my thoughts, assuming that I would be as secretive as are you. Could you pass for a person who lives where I come from, assuming that you could turn into a mist who resembles me? Do you have any curiosity to know? So the Universan is irked by the fact that when he asked John who built Stonehenge, John said he didn't know. And the Universan believes that John does know and is keeping it a secret. So he's always kind of needling John about the fact that he's being open with John, and he doesn't believe that John's being open with him. I've never seen the Great Pyramid, nor have I been to Egypt at all. It's amazing to think that this structure has stood for thousands of years. Of the monuments, the Universan has said so far not a word. Well, never mind about that, John. Your future is safe in my hands. I was telling you how our post-revolutionary society gave all of the lower orders a very rough ride. You have a phrase that's very appropriate, pertinent, precise. It's the rich get richer, John. I'd like to translate it when I get back home. Then the guide speaks as they're riding along on camels. I wish to assure you, ladies and gentlemen, our camel riding guide explains, that the Great Pyramid that stands before you, though it shimmers in the desert, is not a mirage. Every stone that you see is as real as the back of your hand. Now, those who chose the option of entrance to the Great Pyramid will dismount at the camel stop there. Please don't attempt to dismount without the help of a camel attendant. Camels can sense when one is uneasy, so be sure to not let them know. Our apologies to the gentleman who was inconvenienced as we began our lengthy trek. The camel he chose is having a difficult day. Now, this will divide us into two sections, those who dismount and those who do not. Those who have chosen not to descend to the inner sanctum will precede the Great Pyramid group, partaking of a light lunch in the cool of the afternoon shade. Riding a camel, you'll agree, gets easier as the minutes turned into hours. Camels, even more so than dogs, have an uncanny affinity with humans. Camels and humans have interacted through eons of time. During our break, the camels will be replenished with plenty of water in anticipation of a lengthy homeward leg of the Great Pyramid ride. So the Universan, being unused to a human body, is having his difficulties. One of the difficulties is he doesn't seem to get along with camels very well. And we are told, as that segment ends, that the camels are going to get plenty of water because there's going to be a very long camel ride back home after they tour the Great Pyramid. Also interesting, I think, is like how much information are John and the Universan getting about the Great Pyramid from the guide, and how much is information that isn't really about the building of the pyramid at all, because what the Universan wants to know is who built all the great monoliths on Earth. Was it Earthlings alone? Was it aliens alone, or was it Earthlings and aliens together? So how much information are they actually getting from these guides as they tour all the great monoliths of Earth? Now, the question that I never heard in all the reading that I'd done, and all the biographies of the writers of the books that I had taught, or in any of the criticism that I'd read their works, was as follows. The question was, who do you think is the ideal reader of this book? It had never occurred to me that a book had an ideal reader. To me, the reader of the book was the person who opened the cover and started reading on the first page. That there would be an ideal reader for a book suggested that there would be readers who would not be ideal readers for that book. It was something that I found very hard to consider in terms of the implications of that concept. So there are ideal readers for a book? Oh, that means there are people who are not ideal readers, who shouldn't be reading it. It took me 2 weeks to come up with an answer to that strange question that the writing teacher had asked. At the end of the 2 weeks, I handed in a note which said that I've been doing a lot of thinking about that question, that the only answer I could think of was that the ideal reader of the story that I was writing was me. If I were to answer the question of who I'm writing for, I could probably compile a list. I could say that firstly, I'm writing for the future reader of a book of mine. Secondly, I'm writing for the future publisher of the book. Thirdly, I'm writing for the future editor of the book. And finally, if there's any part of the book that's left for me to claim, I could say that I'm writing the book for myself. However, as it is, I can say that I'm writing for two people. Number one, the first person that I'm writing for is the main character of each of my novels. It is my contention that every word of a novel of mine is a thought in the mind of the main character. This means that I would never put anything inside the covers of a book of mine that would appeal to a publisher, that would appeal to an editor, that would make it easier for a reader to understand the relationships of the elements of the book. The only thing that I would allow between the covers of a book of mine are the thoughts that the main character would have about the topics that the main character considers to be important to think about at the moment of crisis at which the book is taking place. Secondly, the fact that every word of the book is not only a thought in the mind of the main character, but is also a thought in the mind of the writer, of me, means that whenever I make a decision about what to put in and what to leave out, the answer is that the decision serves both the main character of the book and myself at the same time. In 4 or 5 years, I will approach my 30th year of writing. After 30 years of teaching of literature, I was asked a question which had never occurred to me in all those years. So is it possible that after 30 years of writing literature, I'll come across another question which has never occurred to me to ask in the previous 30 years? Well, one never knows. Here then is my book, John and the Universan, Nothing is Known. It's found on Amazon where there's more information. It's found on my publisher's website, which is roxmillspress.com. And on my website, johnpassfield.ca, there are 2 free books, a planning notebook and a journal, both of which discuss all the issues that are raised by the fiction, by the novel, John and the Universan. So have a look at johnpassfield.ca if you'd like to read those 2 books. Lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.